So the reason for the podcast was, basically I hear about your journey, but also advice to new comedians. And, you know, I pretty much feel like I've gone straight to the well on this one with you. So yeah, it will be sort of tailored different, but who better to ask about who sold? Is it the number one best-selling book now for up-and-coming comedians?
It's reached in the category of stagecraft, which is quite specific. It's been number one in Australia, Canada, America, and UK, but it's a very specific subject. It's not comedy. A comedy book, if you went to number one in comedy, you'd be scoring down to like probably 50 before you got to mine.
Yeah, but that's sort of like autobiography, maybe as such, or like, yeah, if you want to become a stand-up comedian, yours is the book to like learn the craft.
Well, I mean, it's not for me to say, but the reviews are suggesting that. I got 329 reviews, 4.8 average.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's phenomenal, isn't it? So, hello guys, welcome to another episode of Sit Down for Stand Up. If you are getting into comedy and you want to learn about comedy, I don't need to introduce Adam, but I'm going to do it anyways. Adam, Mr. Adam Bloom, how's it going, dude? You good?
Really, really well. Lovely to have me on the show and see your happy face.
Well, I said, like, when I first did the first sort of 1 to 10 episodes on this, I had to listen to a song, 17 Going Under, to pump myself up for it. I haven't done that in 55 episodes, but I had to do it for this one because, yeah, dude, welcome.
So is this episode 56?
No, 55 later from 10, 65th episode.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah, I do one a day.
OCD.
Yeah, it's got to be, they've all got to come out at the same time. All the thumbnails have to be the same now. Probably, I'm
going to move around just to piss you off. Whoa!
I don't know if it's OCD or laziness. Where's he gone? You blurred.
Cup of coffee.
So yeah, Adam, welcome, man. So yeah, I'm going to tailor it a little bit because this is the one people are going to watch if they want to learn about comedy and people starting out. So people who haven't read your book, it's going to be a bit of a teaser for them also. So I will start with the first one. How did you get into comedy?
I was a funny kid at school. Got sacked from a job. I was a cocktail bartender. Got sacked, and then got home and said to my girlfriend, "I've just lost my job." And she said, "I've got some more bad news. I'm dumping you." And then I was like, "Right, I got nothing here." And I'd just seen Harry Hill for the first time a couple of weeks before, and my brain, it was like a proper bolt. My brain just went, do that thing you've wanted to do since you were 9 years old. You've got no excuses now. You're not busy with a job. It just was a proper boom. I mean, I can remember where I was standing, exactly it just hit me. I went, you got to do this. You got to do that thing. So I did an open spot.
Would you say, like most comedians start comedy usually like at a downhill in their life, at a darkest point?
I haven't done enough research on it, but I think that if your life's going swimmingly well and you're earning $100,000 a year in a job and you're in a happy relationship, you're probably less likely to go, I'm going to risk being booed off by a room full of strangers who hate me. Yeah, I had nothing to lose.
And well, I completely, like, I started comedy at, like, my, like, one of, like, the bleak moment in my life was like, you know what, sod it, what's the worst that could happen? And it's gone quite swimmingly enough. I am going to mention the book, obviously, because
I'm going to capitalize
I'm going to capitalize on this. So my favorite book, Harry Potter. No, how far into comedy was it that you felt you had enough resources and knowledge to sort of pass it on? How long in was it till you decided to write your book?
That's a question I've never been asked. I would say
on the back.
I would say 20 years in, I could have started it. I wrote it 29 years in.
Okay.
It's a collection of everything it took me 8 months to write, but it took me 30 years to think of, because it's every thought I've ever had in 29 years. I mean, people say to me, is there going to be a second book? I'm like, there is not going to be a second book. Anne Frank has got more chance of releasing a sequel than me.
Well, wait, what would her book be called?
I'm Under the Sofa.
It's all not jokes.
I wrote everything I knew.
Okay. I mean, and it's not only is it, a fantastic, it's so easily structured that it does apply to one-liner comics, observation comics, deadpan comics. It is, yeah, any type of comedy you do, there is a part of it in the book that is catered for you.
Yeah.
So, you know, have you tried all types of comedy throughout your comedic life?
No, no. I've never done observational comedy. I've never done one-liners. Never done character comedy. Never done prop comedy. Just various forms. My style evolved. When I was newer, I suppose, a bit more observational, but it didn't take. It only took me about 6 months to start to realize I had gravitating towards a style that you refine and refine, and it becomes your unique voice. And I suppose that probably took me 3 years, I suppose.
And then why did you decide to like settle on that type? Was it just like your preferred type? Or was it the one that got the best response? Or did it feel most like you?
Good question. Most like me. I felt like I had found the inner clown that made my friends laugh when I was 18 down the pub. When I was holding court down the pub, that's how I was being. But it took me 3 years to eventually realize that I could be that.
And I mean, a lot of people, myself included, I was always, well, I owned a pub, so I was always, holding court, the King Jester. How different is it just being the funny guy at the pub to be able to smash it on stage?
Well, they're very different things because on stage you've got to make a room full of strangers who are paying to watch you, trust you, and like you, and get into your world within seconds. I got a chapter on first impressions. You've got to make an audience know who you are in 10 seconds, so they go, right, I'm with it. I get it. And that could be little clues in the way you're dressed and the way you move, and the opening line can clarify several things that your body language and movements are letting us know. So there's a harmony between what you say and what you do, where the audience go, I get it. Oh, you're like that. Okay, this is your world. And then they get into it. Now, you don't do that with your friends down the pub because they know you straight away. Your friends aren't paying and they know who you are. So your friends laughing at you down the pub doesn't mean you can be a good comedian. It means you can be funny down the pub. And stand-up's a craft. Comedians are made, not born. Funny people are born. Comedians are made.
That's what I was going. I know I do ask that. I wasn't asked you, but I was going to like ask it quite a bit. Is it being a comedian nature or nurture?
Well, being a funny person is nature.
Okay.
The some people's brains are wired in a way that they can look at things differently to everyone else. So when they say what they see, everyone else laughs because they didn't see it, right? Just like someone's got a longer legs and a more naturally muscular body, it's going to be able to run faster than the person next to them. And of course, then they train, same thing, exactly the same thing. But some people are better natural athletes than others, right? Basketball players are all tall. That's it. You're not going to be the best basketball player in the world. You're 4'11". It's not going to happen, right? That hoop is too high.
So you can get certainly good, but there would be a barrier.
They're a very unfunny person. I had this conversation today with a comedian called Matt Welcome, who's one of the people I looked up to when I started out. Learning how to do comedy if you're not funny, you'd have to be the most motivated person in the world to become a good comedian. Funniness is a thing that's in you. And, I wrote a book to help fast track funny people to become 5 years down the line in 6 months with the tools to think about it. And that's not how to do it, but like the other ones.
So, I've interviewed quite a lot of people on it. I've had some people on open mic level who just, they've just banged out their 200th gig. They're still only doing open mic. They've not done any paid spots. Is it is it more kind just to put a bullet in the head almost?
No, because it might take a while to find your voice. No, if you feel you're improving, then keep going. And the race isn't against other people. The race is against yourself. And that may sound like a kind of B movie cliche line, but no. I mean, some people took a while to get good. Lee Mack changed his style about a year and a half. I used to not enjoy watching Lee Mack, and then overnight I just saw him and he changed his style, and he started writing more inventive stuff. And I just went, how the hell did this guy go from just below average to unbelievable in the space of 3 months?
Like Mickey Flanagan said, it took him 20 years to get overnight success.
Well, that's an old showbiz saying. Every overnight success takes 10 years. Mickey Flanagan was doing it probably for 15 years before he broke. So here we are. People talk about doing comedy and, they make excuses not to get around to doing it. And, you've got to bite the bullet, right? There's a bullet either in the head or in your mouth, but there's got to be a bullet somewhere, right? And this guy came up to me after a gig and he sounded like Mickey Flanagan. And he went, I'm thinking of doing stand up. Have you got any advice? I said, yeah, the most important thing is you've got to do it. Because so many people just think about doing it and then they make excuses, then they don't do it. So getting up there is the most important thing, without a doubt. And he went, well, I'm 40 and Mickey Flanagan didn't make it to his 50. So I've got 10 years till I start. He actually said that. I'm going to do nothing for 10 years and at 50, I'll have a go at it. And I can bet my life he won't do his first gig.
And to be honest, like I said, I'm fairly new to comedy. I think I'm doing rather well, but I'm still very new too. I'm still very raw. And when I thought about contemplating doing about comedy, I was only watching the professionals, and I thought, well, you know what, I can do that. And then I went to my first gig was a Comedy Store's King Kong. Like
How'd you get on?
minute 23.
Not
I've
bad.
sort of I
Not bad.
applied. I basically thought, oh, comedy's easy to get into. I'll apply to a gig. They'll want to get me on. But weirdly enough, I applied there at 5 o'clock at night. They got back to me at like half five, six, saying, "Oh, we've had 3, 4 dropouts tonight. Come along."
Wow. So
So on the night, I
you
was
had
like, "Oh,
4 hours notice for your first gig. 3 hours
yeah."
notice.
And I was second on. Absolutely tanked it, but loved it.
You know now that you should not be doing your first gig at the Comedy Store Gong Show.
Yeah, hindsight is a wonderful thing, isn't it? But I think what was nice, I did suck ass doing it, but I wanted to get back on stage again.
Great.
And that's the main thing. One I want to ask, so you coach worldwide, you teach people comedy, you do your comedy classes. What would you say you're more passionate about now? Teaching comedy to sort of like the next generation, or getting on stage yourself?
So I've got my life is the most varied it's been because I gig about twice a week by choice. I do 3 writing jobs a week, globally on Zoom and on my own. I do 50% on my own, 50% with them on Zoom with a screen share of what I've done. And then I do a masterclass on average every 2 weeks for the last, since October 2023. So this weekend is going to be my 59th masterclass, which is wonderful. I'm very, very excited about that. So the point is, I get equal buzzes of all 3. When someone sends me a clip of themselves doing material that I wrote and it kills, that's amazing. I don't have to be on stage to get that buzz. When I finish a class and the class is buzzing and walking away inspired to become better comedians, I love that too. And again, it's a very different thing. And then the third one, doing stand-up, the endorphins, that's the biggest proper hit because you're in the eye of the storm. So that's still my favorite buzz, but they're very different. And it's like, like I go to the gym and I run. They're very different. Running's endurance, right? And cardio. And when you're bench pressing a weight, you're just lying there pressing upwards. You're not out of breath at the end. You get your breath back in 2 seconds or whatever. So I like the variety of life of going, I do fitness, I do comedy, but I run gym, I coach, I write for people, and I perform. So if I could only do one of them for the rest of my life, it would be gig. Yeah.
Love that answer. Absolutely love that. So you love the whole baby, pretty much. You love the whole
Yeah.
sector or division. Knowing sort of like in heavy detail, how comedy works, would you say it sort of ruined the spark? Like a magician watching another magician, they know how the magic trick works, or has it created a new self-appreciation for the art?
So my second passion is close-up magic. I invent magic tricks. So this is a very good question. When I'm around magicians and you show them a trick, they're watching different things to a punter would be watching because they know where the moves are. So they're trying to follow what you're doing as a trick rather than what you're presenting yourself as doing. So that the layman's going, okay, you put that coin there, you did that, you did that. Oh, wow, trick. They're going, nah, 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 nah. So what you get is magicians who can fool magicians. You get comedians who can make comedians laugh. It's an identical thing. Because when you're watching a comedian using quite simplistic tricks, you're going, I know where this is going. I mean, there's one stadium-filling comedian, and I'm not joking. I'm 2 punchlines ahead of them when they're on stage. I don't just know what they're going to say next. I know the topper. Now, that's not fun. I'm not laughing.
So when was the last time a comedian sort of took you by surprise then? You were like, fuck, did not see that coming.
Well, I mean, so recently I saw Jim Jeffries at Top Secret, and phenomenal. And he was doing some stuff on LGBTQ. He was talking about the asexual, and he really went into that. And I was laughing. And some of it I was like, okay, I can see what you're doing there. And sometimes it's just like, wow, what a great, unique attitude and writing style. I watched Tim Vine recently. You know, comedians, they're the same usual ones. Sean Locke, rest his soul.
Yeah, RIP.
Daniel Kitson, Simon Munnery, Paul Foote. You know, Johnny Vegas. Stuart Lee obviously is like the number one comedian at the moment in the country. But
Yeah.
all the obvious ones, I can't remember seeing someone I hadn't heard of doing that to me. I can't remember the last time that happened, but it will have happened. Every now and again, I watch a new comedian and I love what they do. But there's a generation of comedians. I hate to say this, where the unique ones are fewer and further between at the moment.
I mean, I was going to go on to this because how do I put it? I spoke to a trans woman the other day, and it was you can't joke about anything nowadays, and even I do how do I say how do I sort of say I do misdirection jokes. So like one of my jokes is I'm not a fan of gay marriage. When men and women get married, a woman's workload increases by 6 hours, a man's workload decreases by an hour. That's why they always look great, more time in the day. If I sucked enough dick, I might be able to get myself a girlfriend. Hardy
Right.
hard. I know, fantastic joke. And she was like, no, you can't joke about that because you might upset someone who's gay, but it's like the joke's not about the gay community. The joke
Also,
is
the sentence, you can't joke about that. Who the fuck is anyone to be the comedy fucking arbitrator of good taste?
okay. So this is now my question. Can you joke about anything? And what would you sort of say the state of comedy is like in the open mic circuit right now?
I don't know the open mic circuit, but public attitude change and the world adjusts with it. You can't have a whole comedy circuit of comedians saying things that the audience are all conditioned to say is wrong, because there's no comedy if you've got a room full of people hating everything you say. So we are all affected by the zeitgeist, without a doubt. But the sentence, you can't say that, is incredibly arrogant. It's incredibly arrogant. You can't say that. Because of what? Because of the opinion I have? You can't say that because I am right and the people I think with have decided there's a new rule. No, you can say what you want. You have to face the music when you say what you want. Of course.
100%.
But I accept that if you walked on stage and said opinions that the promoter and the audience didn't agree with, you might not get booked by them again. Go, we don't promote that kind of comedy. We don't promote that kind of comedy. But that's still a decision. You have to try it out. You still have the choice to try it. I get, and there'll be people listening going, you don't know what it's like on the open mic scene. I get that when public attitudes shift, audiences' attitudes shift because they are the public, promoters' attitudes shift with that. And if you're going against it, yes, of course. But the sentence, you can't say it. No one person can handpick a joke and say that. What happens is you try it. Did it work when you did it last?
Gay joke. It's worked 2 out of 3 times.
Well, then they're wrong, then, aren't they? Because you can
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been told about places in London where it's like if you say any like sexist, racist, any sort of jokes. Now I'm not talking about hard, preachy hatreds, because then you are going to get heckled, you are going to get booed, and just read the bloody room. But even if you made a joke about a woman, they would cut the mic off and ask you to get off stage.
They really, wow,
Yeah.
wow. Well, this
Censorship at its finest.
yeah, that's awful. I wrote a chapter in my book about the victim of a joke. It's very important that a comedian understands the victim of a joke. I had a joke in 1997 that was very successful. When I first did it, I thought I was going to get booed, and I didn't get booed once ever. And the joke was, those car stereos where you can take the face off to stop anyone stealing them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, before my time, I know what you're on about.
Right. Well, this is the thing. It was current at the time. In fact, it was very current because everyone was stealing them. So they took the face off and then you couldn't steal them because they only worked with the face, right? So I said, those car stereos, we can take the face off to stop anyone stealing them. Wouldn't it be good if you could do that with girlfriends? Right? Now, no one ever booed that joke. And I was trying to work out why. And then it hit me. I'm vulnerable because I'm scared of losing my girlfriend. I am showing a weakness in me. Right? It's not saying I hate women, let's take their face off because I don't like them. It's showing a vulnerability. If I could take the face off, no one would fancy them until I'd be okay. So it's not as straightforward as that's sexist, That's not. It's not as simple as that. It really isn't as simple as that. So when you say that's sexist, you go, well, let's look at it, right? You know, I've seen Rob Rouse in '97 when he won So You Think You're Funny, or '98, '97, I think, do a rape joke that made fun of tabloid newspapers. So you can't go. You know, there was this thing a while ago, the ban rape jokes. Go, okay, how do you think Holocaust survivors feel about that subject then? So you can talk about Holocaust, but you can't talk about rape. So Rob Rouse's rape joke was about the newspapers objectifying women. So that was satire. So you could ban a subject.
I'm so 100% with you on it, and I do think it is a bit. I mean, I'm mostly talking about London on the open mic circuit here. It is in a quite concerning state of affair. And that was I did a joke on like my fourth ever gig saying, "Oh, I don't like the left. They made it so you can't laugh at fat people. Makes this job a lot harder."
That's great. So you're
Thank
the
you.
victim. You're the
Yeah,
victim.
but the second I said, "Oh, I don't like the left," it's like, "Oh, well, you don't like." Back up.
Yeah. So you could, I mean, you could go, I don't like left. Hear me out. You know, that could be the moment when you get reeling back on, right? You know, I'm going to say something here, and before I say it, I do predict that 70% of the room's going to recoil. But when that happens, we'll get through it. Here's what I've got to say. I don't like left. Yeah, that's the bit. That's the bit you're going to not like, and then you get. But you know, you need to find methods that allow that to work. You know, you can prefix it with, "I'm going to say something that you will not like." Give me a cheer if you vote your left wing. Hey, well, you're going to hate this next comment. Then they're like, okay, now you've challenged me. You know, there are ways around it. But you know, if I was in a generation where promoters cut the mic, I'd go, no. Why don't you let the audience decide? Because they're the ones who are paying, and if they're liking it, then you'll find you're attracting the wrong people to your gig. You should be questioning your own mailing list. Do you know what I mean? If you've got your club, when you know, like dogs look like their owners, audiences look like their promoters. You know, because you're just the
That wasn't that
style.
funny, but you just really ticked a line right there. Fuck me, they do, don't they?
But the thing, you know, when jonglers had 17 clubs, they were having pictures of jugs of beer and big single sex parties. So people go, I look like that when I go out with my friends, and I like jugs of beer. I'm going to go there, of course. You know, Robin Ince had a comedy club he called Book Club. He called it Book Club. So it puts people off who don't read, right? That was his idea. But he was getting rid of the type of people that he didn't want at his club. You know, there's a snobbery to it. I don't read myself. I've written a book. I've only read one. But the point is that people, just the style of the flyers you do, people give off a vibe. Just your presence in the room gives off a vibe. And you know, Malcolm Hardy was an anarchist, and his audience was the roughest club in the world. Tunnel Club, which then to come up the creek on a Sunday, was the roughest gig there was. And you know, he nurtured his audience. So if you're nurturing an audience and they're laughing at stuff you don't agree with, that's already something wrong there. And some people listening go, "No, you can't stop your walking to the club." No, you can't. But let's get back to the core of my point. If you've decided a comment sexist and your audience in your club are laughing at it, then there's a disjoint between you and your audience's approach. Cutting a mic on somebody, they should be able to defend themselves. When an audience comedy's free speech. When an audience turns on a comedian, the comedian can defend themselves. I've broken down a joke on stage and explained why the audience were wrong, and they've laughed because I've challenged them. And here's the thing about punching down. They go punching down. If society thinks punching down's bad, then a punching down joke is punching up at society.
So, wait, redo that one.
If society thinks that punching down comedy is bad, then if a comedian does a punching down joke to that audience, they are therefore punching up at the audience's attitude.
So I'm being thick. Right.
But basically, right, so there are listeners who got this the first time, so apologies for hearing this now.
Intermission.
Go make a cup of tea. Basically, public attitudes have become now, you mustn't be cruel to people. You mustn't, do homeless jokes or disability jokes. So therefore, when you were doing that in front of an audience who liked it, you're punching down and the audience are liking it. But if you're doing a punching down joke to an audience who you know will not enjoy it, the mere fact that you're doing that joke is punching up at them.
Okay, over there. Yeah, state of mind over the joke itself.
Yeah, You
Well,
get virtual signaling comedy when
yeah.
let's say
So,
an Asian comedian tells a story about getting racially abused in a chip shop at 1 in the morning.
mm.
The crowd has to support them to show that they're not racist. They're not
Okay,
going to
yeah,
go,
I'm with you.
"Oh, someone called me the P word in a chip shop. Get off." It's not
Mm.
going to happen, is it? It cannot happen. So the mere fact that you're talking about being a victim in your comedy, and the same applies to a white person telling a story about they heard a Asian person racially abused, and I came up with this really funny answer to the racist, which is virtue signaling comedy, because of course the average person isn't racist, but if you tell an audience I'm not racist, they have to go, neither are we. So what you've done is you create this safe space in the joke where you cannot fail. You cannot fail telling an audience of white liberal people that you hate racism.
I'm with you on that. I am with
The,
you.
you can get small laughs, but you cannot fail.
Yeah, okay. So like, if you don't laugh at this, then yeah, you are the problem. Like
Yes,
you're.
absolutely,
Oh, I don't want to be the
absolutely,
problem, because I'm woke.
absolutely.
I love everything.
Absolutely. So therefore, a very edgy joke that's punching down at anything that's considered, if you're performing to a left stand-up comedy audience are left leaning by nature.
Mm.
Of course, you get some home county audience with I've got a routine about matching with a trans woman on a dating site, and it depending where I'm in the country, I get different laughs at different points in the routine. So that of course there are public attitudes that change, and there are the 58-year-old people in the home counties sitting there in their Ralph Lauren shirt, their pipe with their wife, semi-retired plumber, and they might not laugh at the same thing as a Soho audience in their 20s.
Mm.
Of course, but you pick a random comedy club in London, it's a left-leaning audience, and I like to think most people aren't racist.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. So if you tell a story where you outwitted a racist because they said something stupid and you broke down how stupid they were, you're not going to get anyone going, "Boo! I'm on the racist side. He made a very good point." So what you've got is a safe space on stage. Now, if comedy gets to a safe space and the mic gets pulled if you say anything that's considered unsafe, you've sanitized free speech. You
Mm.
can say to a comedian, "You're not coming back to my club. I didn't like what you said." And by the way, if the audience liked it and the promoter didn't, they've still got the right to say, "I don't like that kind of comedy in my club." But you go, the audience liked it. I don't care. I didn't like it. But I respect promoters who really book someone who didn't do well at their club because they liked it, and they won't book someone who did because they thought it was hacky. I really respect that, right? Otherwise, you may as well have a clapometer and not even watch your own gig. Just review the clapometer, right? So, of course, the artistic merit of the performers should be as relevant as the audience reaction. But if you have someone on your stage who says something you don't approve of, the comeback can go back on stage and take the piss out of you.
But I've got to say, um, do do you think because of your knowledge in comedy, it's made it slightly disillusioned with how some of society is now, and that they will die on the hill of outrage for being at the sake of outraged?
What? But by me gigging 2, 3 times a week, surely I'm seeing that myself.
Yeah. I'm just having like, no matter how, I don't know how do I put it? So like, people. Okay, how am I going to word this? Do I want to word it? So people, if I say I'm not a punch joke, misdirect joke, people automatically, as I joked about a topic, due to my persona and everything, regardless of how I came at it, even if I did, a fantastic takeaway where if they had that attitude, it means that they are on the sides, of the racist. They'd still rather that than be on my sides. It only says that you can't be racist to white people.
Who
And
said
some
that?
people like, well, on like, a lot of society like believe that like, a lot of the like podcasts I watch and stuff is like you can only be racist to certain demographics.
No, racism is a dislike of a certain race based on prejudice and not even giving someone a chance based on what they look like. That applies to no, of course not. I've
I
heard
know,
some.
I agree with you on that.
I've
Yeah.
heard some. Africans be very racist to Caribbeans and vice versa. So no, not in the slightest. Racism is someone being disliking someone for their race, regardless of what they say or do. That applies to everybody.
But that's the logical answer. I
Oh
think that
no,
some
no.
people
So
aren't clever. Some people just aren't clever.
No, of course. If you're a minority and you're a victim of systemic racism, then if you have a punch, it's back. Then now we're like punching up now, aren't we? We go if a black comedian stands on stage and tells white people what they do that they don't like, then of course that's the minority punching up. Of course, they've earned the right because of oppression and systemic racism. They've earned the right to have a go at the minority, at the majority, of course. But you can
Yeah.
still be racist. You can if a black comedian on stage said, "I think white people are genetically evil."
Mm.
That's racism. But if a black person says, "When I go for a job interview, I found I don't," do you know there are African English second generation African doctors who have put fake English surnames on job applications. They've done 8 years training and they put fake surnames to get a job interview because systemic racism means the white person going through the things favors the English surnames, right? So, if a black doctor on stage talked about that, I'm not going to go, "That's racist." I'd say that's them seeing flaws in society. Of course. Oh, absolutely, of course. The minority has the right to point out flaws in the majority because that's the punching up side of it. Of
Okay.
course.
So you say it's like the equivalent of like we could take the piss out of lawyers, bankers, but we shouldn't take the like. But it's easier to get away with them jokes than it would to be get away with jokes about nurses, firefighters.
Yeah, it's a similar thing, but the difference is racism is obviously a bigger issue than someone having a lower salary than you. But
Of course.
it's a similar thing. Yes, if the majority of people in the country are white and there are things that are going on that aren't fair on minorities, and Morty points it out, that's not racism. That's pointing out a flaw in a society. But if a black comedian on stage said Hitler, Stalin, da 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 da. See, look, all the evil white people in the world. Genetically, you're more evil, right? And there's like that's racism. I mean, I'd be shouting Mugabe from the back of the room, nonetheless. But the point is that
Wow.
there's.
Genghis Khan. Yeah.
But yeah, I think, but it's an interesting one. But I'd never stand in front of a black audience and try and find flaws in black people because that would be ludicrous, and I hadn't earned the right living a privileged life as a white person. That's the difference. But
Okay.
it doesn't mean a black person can't be racist. Of course they can. It
Mm.
doesn't make any logical sense to say they can't be racist. Of course they can.
Mm.
They have earned the right to pick flaws in the way things are geared against them, but
Mm.
that's not the same as racism.
No, I wholeheartedly agree with you, but I think some people might not have the intellectual capability to actually segment the two.
Right? Okay.
But then I guess that's you're not going to win every crowd member over, and they're not the ones you'd wish to appease the most, anyways.
No. But the idea of a promoter cutting the mic on you mid joke because they've decided it's wrong. And here's the thing as well: they better have a very precise understanding of comedy to work out who the victim of the joke is,
Mm.
because
Yeah,
if they heard Rob Rouse's joke, they'd cut the mic out before it got to the punchline, and they'd be wrong because it was
no, that happened
satire.
to one of my mates at a Gong show. He was like, I want to talk to you about minorities, and the joke was actually about being shorter than average height,
Right?
and they cut him off at the minority bit. And it was like, what? This was the Gong show. I was like, you just kicked me off looking like a racist when it was all about being 5'8".
Wow! 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 I think he earned the right to call over to the MC and say, that wasn't what I was going to say, but I suppose it's over the rules of the rules. But at least the Gong was a democratic decision. At least they misunderstood it as a group. But one promoter cutting the mic, look, there's probably promoters listening to this going, "You don't understand. We get lots of complaints, blah 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 blah." But you have to kind of you have to look at this problem intelligently. And as a promoter, if you cut a mic on someone because you've decided it's wrong, you're not God. The audience should be able to decide. And if someone in the audience is going to be offended, like we were worried they were going to be offended, their words.
Yeah.
Oh, I was offended. You went to spoken word art and you had a problem with a sentence.
Well,
Move on.
it's the sticks
Move
and
on.
stones may break my bones. When did words ever,
Yeah.
like one of my dogs has been an arsehole. I think it's Fox. I live next to an alley, and I think it's like Fox gangbang season or something.
Oh, wow.
So they're all going absolutely for it. Okay, let me ask you this one, Adam. So say for a fairly new comedian, they're getting their fives, they're getting their tens, they've just been offered a 25. they don't know if they're ready or not, should they still take the gig?
25 is an odd number. When did you come out of 25?
20s then. 12.
Okay.
I'll
I
tell you for I'll tell you for why. I'll lead on. I've done 5, 10s, 15s. I've been offered a gig in Reading, and I'm really excited for it. It's for in front of 300 police officers who have been injured in the line of duty,
Wow.
and it's 25 minutes, and I've taken it,
Right.
but I'm trying to write all new material for them.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
You wouldn't.
No.
Okay, so question
I
one then: should you get yourself elevated before you're ready?
if
And
you got
two, should you cater your comedy for, like, say, a specific event like that?
I wouldn't write a whole set for one event, no, because it's too much new material to potentially fail. What I would do is I'd write 3 minutes on injured police at the very beginning, and
Okay.
then I would slip into my other stuff. I would start off with bespoke stuff that's clearly written for them. I
Mhm.
would then do stuff on subjects of uniformed police,
Yeah.
generic stuff. That's so if you look at it as a rainbow, you've got them, similar to them, and then
Then
your generic stuff. And if you start off with about them, it creates the illusion that it's all about them. I'm not saying that people are stupid enough to think you wrote a 25-minute set on them. What I'm saying is, if you did 10 minutes of generic stuff and then did stuff on them, they would already decided you're doing generic set.
okay, so start off all about them because, like, I did have a couple ones, like, and I'm not going to do this one, but I thought it was going to find it. Oh, so what do you do for a living? What do you do for a living? What do you do for a living? But I don't like that one. The one I'm going to open it with is I got a cab here because I thought it would have been disabled parking everywhere
That's nice.
because they were injured. If you get injured on the line of duty, do you instantly become a special constable?
Nice.
Like,
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
what ones like that. And my granddad was a copper, and there's a fantastic story about him. He worked at the Woolwich Docks for 30 years, and he was on a escape out. For 3 days, they were watching the criminals pushing these empty trolley carts, and they were like, "Well, no, we'll wait till they're full, till we nick them." It turns out they were stealing trolley carts.
Nice. Nice.
I've not
But
written that one yet, but I love that
no,
story.
no, it's great. Just one thing. If you got 17 minutes that you think's good, and some of your 20-minute set, I think wing it. Yeah, I do a tiny bit of crowd work for 5 minutes in, just
Okay,
wing it. Yeah. If you got 12 minutes of material and someone offers you 20, do not take it. No. But
okay,
it's
so
just that thing of saying to someone, I'd rather do another 10 is like you're stopping yourself getting evolving. And also just get to work. Just get to
mm,
work and write some other stuff. If you got 15 minutes and someone offers you 20, right? Do a brand new five at another club, new material night, or a club that just does open mics, and hone that five in and then slip it into the 20. If the mafia were going to kill you if you couldn't do a good 20, you'd do it, wouldn't you?
to be fair, yeah. Or actually, with Matthew, do you know what song is sung on karaoke that most people get killed to?
It sounds like a Tim Vine joke. What song of karaoke do people most get killed to?
Yeah.
I'm
Um.
asking you.
Oh, it's I Did It My Way, Frank Sinatra, where they do it, and there's like a mafia boss in the background who relates to that song, and they don't do it justice.
You're joking.
No, true story. True story.
People get killed for singing that song wrong.
Yeah, because like a mafia boss takes heart to it, like that's their song.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah, true story. True story. Irrelevant, but true story. Okay, so say someone is killing it on the stage, but they're not progressing as they'd like to. What would you advise someone who's like, they are smashing out 20 minutes now? How do they actually get to the next level of being discovered?
But there's a very dangerous stage a comedian has when they get their first good 20 and they're scared to change any of it because they don't want to have a bad gig. So they're kind of keeping this Deodora League of status and they're never going to progress because they don't do any new stuff. So they just protect their little small world, which is 20 minutes in a few clubs, and they're terrified of not getting booked again. So they do this state. And when I say small world, what I mean is, do your first hour at the Edinburgh Festival. It's going to come from turning over stuff.
Yeah.
So you get in foreign countries when you get a tiny comedy community. I had it in Perth recently, and you'll get a comedian that's considered a big fish in that pond. But if they came over to England, they'd just be one of 1,000 comedians. They'd be middle act on a bill. So there's a guy called Brendan Lovegrove came from. By the way, when I was in Perth last month, there are some incredible comedians out there. I've got to say this, but
Comedy
when
lounge out there.
Comedy Lounge, I did 10 gigs there in about 2 weekends running. So Friday
Uh,
to Saturday, I did 10 gigs there in that room.
I always watch their Gong Show.
I went to watch. They asked me to do the Gong Master. I said no.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to be that cruel.
who did I just have? Who did I just have? Fuck me, wasn't it? Gordon Southern. I spoke to him
Right.
recently, and he's their gong master for the next 2 weeks.
Well, he doesn't have it in him to be spiteful, but I'm sure he'll find a way. But it's not. It's not. It doesn't suit my persona or nature as a person to do it. So I turn it down. But so what's my point? Big fish, small pond. Brendan Lovegood was the biggest comedian in New Zealand. He came to England and he was middle act on the bill, and he was fine with that. He wanted to challenge himself and be amongst better comedians. So if let's say you're headlining 50-seater gigs, but you're not doing the big clubs, and you're getting your 20s good, your 20s good. And you're like, well, I don't know about the big club. I watched something the other day. They said, I'm really nervous. I said, why? I said, well, I'm not used to rooms this big. I said, you're doing the same material that goes well at other clubs. They went on, they smashed it. But they had this barrier in their mind, I can't do these gigs. And thank God they did well. Because if they didn't, it was because they put pressure on themselves. The Williams sisters, the tennis players, their dad said, the only pressures are the ones we put on ourselves. Isn't that a great sentence?
Would you still say not nervousness, but do you still get the butterflies before every set?
I get a tiny butterflies. I wouldn't say butterflies. I get a little tingle.
Little tingle.
Yeah, a little tingle.
Okay. Okay. I always ask this question. I love it so much. What has been your favourite moment on stage? And from all your history, what time did you bomb the hardest?
My favourite moment on stage was when I realised I was doing well at my first ever gig. And when I bombed the hardest was without a doubt my first death at Up the Creek, which was my sixth gig ever, when Malcolm Hardy had his audience turned into him. And I was lynched. And I wouldn't get off. I wouldn't get off. I was a very angry 24-year-old. And Malcolm had to get me off. The combat had to come on and take me off, like, that kind of thing.
What, just
You know?
refusing to get off the stage or
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. I took on a heckler, lost my temper with him, and I was in rage. I was in blind, fuming rage.
okay? What type of
Yeah.
heckles? What type? Yeah, I don't want to bring it all back, but what type of heckle was it?
Um, I can't remember what he exactly said, but he sat there in his chair like he was a king on his throne while 300 people hated me and was just chucking these. That was it. I said, just give me a second to adjust. This is my first bad audience ever, right? Which obviously I was just speaking my mind. I was dying horribly. And that's my first bad audience. Went, that's because this is your first time. Like that almost like got you. Like you think back on that. You've got a guy in his mid-30s, you've got a guy in his early 20s, dying horribly, saying, this is my first bad audience. And him going, that's because it's your first time, as it's your first bad audience because it's your first audience. So go, let's look at punching down for a minute, shall we? There's 300 people hating someone. They're clearly new. They've just admitted it's the first time they've had a
Yeah.
tough audience. So they're trying. I was adjusting. Give me a chance to process this. I need a minute to work out what's going on here. This is my first bad audience. Obviously, bad audience is not a nice thing to say to an audience. They're not going to like you for that. What I should have said was, give me a minute. I've only done 5 gigs. My first tough one. But I was dying horrifically. So when I went, give me a minute, this is my first bad audience. That's someone who's fighting. That's someone who's going, I'm going to readjust. I'm dying for the first time. Okay, let's just reset my brain. And he went, that's because it's your first time, like that. And I go, look at this. Let's look at it. There's 300 people hating one person, and he heckles me then. What
Yeah,
chance has he
it's
got
the
of?
ultimate punch down, isn't it?
It's the ultimate.
That's
It's the ultimate
kicking
punch
them.
down. It's the ultimate punch down, and I was screaming at him. I
Mm.
was quite an intimidating looking 23-year-old as well.
Okay. Do you think gong shows have a reflection of someone's comedic capabilities at an early stage?
No, because it only suits certain types of comedy. If you tell a story, it takes a while to build up. If you've got to do something a bit weird, and the audience have to trust you and get into it. It favors the alpha and it fails the heavy punchline comedy. So if someone walks on stage and goes, "Hey, bang, yeah," like that, the crowd are more likely to go, "Okay, we'll give you a chance." If someone walks on timid, because the gong premise is the audience have power. Well, the comedy is about comedy works because the comedian has power. That's why comedy works. You are dominating a room, right? So it's like if you're a matador, right, and there are 6 bulls, you're not going to be doing that, are you?
Yeah,
Right.
you're
So,
right.
so that environment, by saying to the audience, you have the power, there's a shift there already. So if you walk on stage to regain the power with a timid persona, you're obviously more likely. Of course, it can happen because the quality of the material or whatever. But the alpha will in what I've experienced of maybe 10 gong shows I've seen, the alpha will more likely dominate because they're saying to them, no, I'm taking that power off you. Whereas if your persona's timid and low energy, you're saying to the audience who've been told they have the power that you have the power without any signs that you're actually gaining the power. So it's definitely geared to the aggressive or certainly commanding. You know, some of my favorite comedians aren't commanding. Their command is the fact the audience trusts they're going to be good. They go on gentle, and then imagine Stuart Lee at a gong.
Yeah, I was thinking more. Is it Bernie? Who's the black comedian died? It's Bernie Mac. Bernie Mac.
Oh, the famous "I'm not scared of you" people.
Yeah, that's what I say. I ain't scared of none of you motherfuckers.
Right.
Straight away, like, is that sort of like you say on the gong? You've got to go in, dick swinging almost.
No, well, I'm not saying you've got to go in. You've got to go on and do what you do. But I'm just saying the dick swingers are more statistically. Dick swingers. I've only been to about 8 gong shows in my life. I'm confident that the chart of people who lasted more than a minute, the dick swingers are in the more than a minute chart, of which you are clearly one.
I do. I'm never that because I've only ever done gong shows sort of like my first like 5, 6, 7 gigs, and then I never did well. But like one of my mates absolutely kills it on the gong shows, but all he is crowd work, and he's like he's a road man. He's like, shut up, you dickheads, and
There you
like
go.
instant. But I haven't got that persona. I'm more sad clown. Like all my
Oh,
jokes,
really?
believe it or not, like all my jokes are like the fat jokes are quite low hanging fruit, and then most of my material is about being a twin. And like Janelle Shillett is like being the afterthought on a birthday song. Like they don't really like the candles for me. My mum went out the way to get a back to front fucking shuttle. There was always left to right. My twin being a doctor during COVID, I saw him waiting down the end of the road at 6:58 on a Thursday during COVID to run down to everyone clapping. We live down a cul-de-sac. Joe, it's very like woe with my life. So I don't give off alpha at all.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay, so looking back on all your time in comedy, what is one joke that at the time you thought was a killer, and you look back and you think, why the hell did I think that was funny?
That's a good question.
No,
A line I thought was funny and wasn't. Oh wow, that's a God. I'm trying to plug a book here.
yeah, I think I was in like Ed Brimson at his first gig. No, one of his gigs, he did Vinger Boys in like the full like gold short shorts, and for a whole 3 minutes, the Vinger Boys are coming.
Oh,
I
wow.
look back hauntingly.
Do you know what I should? The reason it's hard to think of a line that didn't work is I would have only done it 2 or 3 times maximum, so they're not lodged in my mind.
Okay.
So nothing's been. I've done hundreds of lines that I thought worked but wouldn't, but I've only said them once. It's like, what's the postcode at the place you house sat for a week?
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Do you know what I mean? So it's not, but yeah, there's been many a time I thought that was funny, and I've watched great comedians do brand new material to silence. You watch the documentary Comedian with Jerry Seinfeld. He gets a standing ovation walking on, does new material, and one of it gets silence, and an English guy in the audience goes, "Is this your first time?"
Someone did that quite recently to him, didn't they? They heckled him, and he was sort of like, "Who are you? Look at me!" And yeah, I do. Yeah. Okay. One I did want to particularly ask, from your perspective, do you think AI has a place in comedy?
No. If you need a computer to write a joke for you, you need to think more about what job you're in.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so how would you say, like, so like musical comedians, they just wanted help learning to rhyme things?
Eminem does not use a rhyming dictionary.
Yeah, I'm just playing devils here, Adam.
No, Eminem does not use a rhyming dictionary. He's way more advanced than what a rhyming dictionary can tell you. He did a song called Headlights, where one verse, every line rhymed with his mum's name, Debbie Mathers, and he poured his heart out about his dad leaving and what he'd do if someone took his kids away from him. And every line rhymed with Debbie Mathers, and that wasn't AI doing that.
I can't think of one word that rhymes with Matters right now.
Mathers.
Mothers. Okay.
No, Mathers.
Mathers. Brothers.
It's got to be Debbie Mathers as well.
Debbie Mathers. Look at all these cadavers.
Nope.
Uh,
You're a very good advert for AI, by the way.
yeah, I actually got that one off ChatGPT. So okay.
I was writing for someone the other day, and I said, "Why did you put that word there?" And they went, "I didn't. AI did it." And I went, "Well, AI is not a comedian. Take it out."
Mm.
The word was wrong. The word was wrong.
Mm.
You know, it doesn't matter how. Look, maybe there'll be a time when AI is so good you can feed it a video of Eddie Izzard and it can write an Eddie Izzard joke, something. But there's still the soul of the person. You can't. A computer can't capture the actual soul.
I know. I 100 agree with you. It reminds me of that South Park joke where they call Germans not funny, so they create that robot that tells jokes.
That's funny.
And there's like the low like knock knock. And there's like the worst jokes ever, but like everyone's laughing at them. It's just like it was like I think it was like an example of like the sad state of society, like laughing at low hanging fruit instead of true creativity.
Yeah, and also, you know, it's like illustration with AI. You know, when you see an illustration that's done by a human, you picture the person's hand doing that, and you get a little thought of like, oh, they did that for me. Well, you know, I would rather go into debt paying an illustrator than use AI because I know that a human being did it.
You want to envision the tears that dropped onto the paper as they wrote this out. Okay, should you I had this 3 weeks ago and I didn't say anything and it sort of stuck with me a little bit. It was at a gong show. I went to go watch a mate. They bombed, but don't care about that bit. This guy did 5 minutes, and I shit you not, it was word for word a 5 minute bit from a Ryan Long special.
Who's Ryan Long?
A Canadian comedian. And
It needs to be taken aside and told that you can't do that.
you think even on the open mic circuit level, you should be
100%.
calling them out? Okay.
100%. By the way, saying you can't do that with regard to content that's subjective and you're making rules of, I've decided you can't say that. Hey, the arrogance is not the same as saying our industry is based on originality.
Yes.
He's making a fool of himself. He's making a fool of himself.
Because he got through and it really stuck with
because
me
the person judging didn't know.
Yeah.
Our industry is based on one simple rule. You come up with your own stuff. Mm-hmm. And you go, yeah, but people didn't have the same idea. Yeah, they didn't have the whole Ryan, whatever his name is, routine. You could have a trillion combinations of words and you wouldn't have two people write that routine, would you?
Yeah, like everyone's got a dating app joke, but no one's ever done the same ones word for word.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, even not even word for word, they're different ideas. You know, a subject can't be hack. That is how you approach a joke that's hack. Someone said to me the other day, I want to do some stuff about taking my kids to school, or is that hack? I haven't heard the bit yet. It's a misconception. Hack is the way you do something. Of course, if a comedian says, when I lost my virginity, I wasn't very good, I'll be like, oh, here we go again. But if they came up with a killer line about it, I'd be like, that's still a killer line. In actual fact, if 50 comedians all did a joke about losing your virginity and you had a line that none of them thought of, that's even harder because you've gone down the same path and come out with something different.
Great. But say if I was going out with my mates, I was like, oh, I thought I was out. And then I was actually out.
Well, that's obviously Mickey Flanagan's joke.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so that is you need to be spoken to a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you get parallel thinking, and then what happens is someone takes them aside and say, look, so-and-so did that joke 10 years ago. And you go, oh, okay, it's the same joke. Or you've got to decide, is it similar? Is it different enough to be two separate seeds? Because, you know, that we have an overlap and things. But you go, is the core of the joke, is the reason it's funny the same as that one? And then you go, they did it first, you got to drop it. And then we go, well, I thought of it independently. Okay, well, you're both going to do it, but you're going to be on a circuit where people are going to think you nicked it off them. Yeah. And, you know, sometimes the small comedian does a joke first and the big name comedian does it afterwards. And then the small comedian drops it because they do it, the big comedian does it on television. And that's a really unfair, just unfortunate situation.
Do you think you should be able to trademark a joke then?
I think you should be able to, but you can't.
I think I'd be mortified if anyone accused me of like joke theft. I think that is like one of the worst things as a comedian you could be accused of.
Well, the people from my generation who did it have got nicknames, brutal nicknames about them doing it.
Mm.
So, you know, it's a self-pleasing society. If someone keeps doing it, they'll be noticeable. You know, we have overlap. If I have an overlap that's someone else's joke, right? No one's going to go, I nicked it. They'll go, do you know that similar? I go, oh, okay, well, yeah, I suppose mine's similar. I'll drop it. Because if you do something for 3 decades and you've never been accused of stealing, then why would I out of the blue suddenly steal something? So when someone's been going 3 years and it's happened to them 3 times, we go, well, it's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence.
Yeah. So yeah, your track record and your reputation.
Yeah,
Speaks for itself.
if you've been going 3 years and you have a Jerry Seinfeld joke and a Stephen Wright joke and a Bill Hicks joke verbatim, that can't be a coincidence. Some people go, well, it's possible. Yeah, in the same way that someone wins Euro Millions with 108 million to 1 odds.
Yeah, they've had it 3 times.
Whatever it is, 300 million to 1 odds. But so, yeah, it can happen. But in my experience, when someone has verbatim the same joke as a well-known comedian that they grew up watching, and it happens more than once, it's because they've nicked it. It's my overlap of people having exactly the same idea is probably twice in 30 years.
Yeah, so it doesn't happen. It's not a chance.
My point is, when it's happened to me, no one's gone, you stole that. They've gone, did you know that so-and-so does that? And I go, no, I didn't, but it's a bit similar. Yeah, I'll drop it. But my point is, when a new comedian's doing it, and it's happening all the time, it becomes glaringly obvious, is my point.
Oh, and it was for him to do it. I mean, personally, that's why I sort of like to stay away from your normal sort of subjects, dating apps, ex-girlfriends, things like that. Because I think like everyone just seems to talk about them quite a bit.
Yeah, but this is the point. My dating app stuff is nothing like anyone else's dating app stuff, as far as I know.
True.
So my point is, you can go, I'm going to pick an original subject, right? Salt cellars. But the way the joke's structured about the salt cellars might be hacky in the eyes of a professional comedian. Okay. So subject, yes, you're less likely to. If you go, right, I'm going to do a joke about things that clean glasses. I've never heard someone do a joke about them, so therefore it's not going to happen that someone's thought of it, right? But there could still be a very formulaic, derivative, generic structure behind the joke. So yes, of course, if you walk on stage and you're the third person talking about dating sites, the audience will go, we've talked about this, because audiences aren't comedians. They go, we've talked about this. So yeah, if 2 comedians before me talk about dating sites, I might not do my dating site stuff, not because it's the same joke, it's because the audience are bored of hearing that topic. But the actual joke, no, a good joke's a good joke. A great joke about getting the munchies when you're stoned is still a great joke.
Yes, even though it might have been like a lot of people might have done the same, not the same subject, subject, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, and I will end it with this one, Adam, because you've been amazing. Keep it as raw as it is. What advice would you give to a new comedian who's never been on stage for the first time? They're thinking about doing it, but they're a little bit nervous.
2 things: read my book and give up.
It's a saturated industry.
I would say what I said to the guy who told me he's going to start doing stand-up at 50. Life is short. Don't ever want to look back at your life and wonder what happened if you had done your first stand-up gig. That's what fueled me at 23 and 5 days old. You do not want to look back at your life and wonder what would happen if you'd done the job you wanted to do. So put some preparation into it. Record your set again and again. Play it back. Play it to some friends. Go over it. Tweak it. Think about it. Watch comedy. Learn from other people's mistakes by watching other people doing open mics. Try and work out what the pros are doing that the amateurs aren't, such as walking on stage, fumbling the mic stand, look at the floor, then look up to start like that. Just look at them and see what people are doing that seems to look right. I don't mean copying, I mean physical techniques. I can watch a new comedian before they've taken the mic up the stand. I can watch a pro before they've opened their mouths. You can't fake that confidence, but you can skip some of the rookie errors. Walk on stage and go to the bright light. It will be a bright light. Realize that in advance. Go to a club and ask to stand on the stage when there's no one in the room and see what it looks like. You do not want to look back on your life and wonder if. I've spent the last 3 decades traveling the world doing the thing I've wanted to do since I was 9 years old. And the reason I'm doing it is because I had my first gig. You cannot be a comedian without your first gig. It's physically impossible. So do your first gig. And if it doesn't go well, just like you, get back up and go, I'm going to give it another go. It might not be for you, but do enough gigs to find out it's not for you. And then you might end up being a writer, an actor, a director, you might end up in another area of comedy. Sacha Baron Cohen did stand up for a little while. He doesn't do it now. He's a movie star.
I found my love doing podcasts.
What's that?
I found my love doing podcasts and
Is
talking to
that right?
comedians. Absolutely love doing it. Absolutely love talking to the comedians. So, but okay, I said that was the last one. I'm going to lie. I just want to end it with this one. Who is your favourite comedian? And tell me one comedian I don't know about who is heavily underrated, who I need to go watch.
So Sean Locke is obviously dead, very sadly died in 2021. He was my favourite comedian. My favourite comedian alive is a guy called Neil Hamburger. Have you heard of Neil Hamburger?
No, but I'm writing it down.
Wonderful.
Okay.
So I would pay £100 to see Neil Hamburger. If it was 20 quid a ticket, and they said this one person outside touting it's 100 quid, I'd buy it in a second.
Neil Hamburger. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go give him a look. Adam, your book has absolutely changed my perspective and thought process on comedy. Talking to you has just given me a headache about comedy that I really need to process. You're just abundance of knowledge, dude, and it's been an absolute pleasure, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, any time, Adam. Truly, thank you ever so much. And I know, just brilliant, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
And cheers, everyone.
Oh, so I thought you finished.